Ecological aspects of mining. Most kinds of mining processes of man have side effects of an ecological nature. Underground mining may include whole new towns among its surface installations, e.g., the Kateri Copper Project, Junjunu, Rajasthan, India. Timber is cut in forested areas, often leading to soil erosion and the tailings in mine. PRODU Court ION. Figure 15.1. Alternate depletion patterns for mineral resources. A. Pattern of rapid extraction and depletion of minerals that will occur under the present custom of unrestricted mining, use, and throw away. B. Depletion time can be extended by partial recycle and less wasteful use. C. Efficient recycle, combined with stringent conservation and substitutions can extend mineral depletion curves indefinitely. Cloud, 1969. Waste have to be discarded. Large-size solid wastes can be used as backfill or sold for aggregates, but tailings usually yield silt particles to wind and water and are often chemically unstable. The only suitable treatment appears to be to fix them with vegetation. Mine waters are often heavily contaminated and have to be treated chemically and physically, or injected into safe rock strata. Further, in most countries open-pit mining is more widespread than extraction by shaft. In such mining, waste disposal becomes a major problem to which backfill is the obvious solution. If the topsoil is saved, then restoration of agriculture or recreational use is often possible. The processes of concentration, beneficiation and refining may all create biological changes if various products are released into nearby ecosystems, i.e., they may create environmental pollution which affect adversely the ecosystems. 2. Energy and its conservation. Energy utilization has become the modern key to human progress. At the present time, modern nations differ markedly in their energy consumption, with industrialized nations such as European nations like Britain, Germany, Poland, etc., United States, Japan, Hong Kong and Singapore, typically using 10 to 50 times as much energy per capita as agricultural and developing nations such as India, Bangladesh, Indonesia and Ethiopia. Southwick, 1976. Higher energy consumption is often associated with higher gross national product and personal income per capita, but it is also associated with higher levels of industrial pollution. Fossil fuels such as oil, gas and coal form the non-renewable sources of energy and account for 90% of the world's production of commercial energy. Hydroelectric and nuclear power accounting for only 10%. The figures are: oil e 39.5% energy, natural gas circa CCCO 19.6% energy, coal Cubburani 30.3% energy, hydroelectric 6.7% energy, nuclear 3.9% energy. According to Advisory Board on Energy Aid, the various forms of energy are likely to make the following contribution in India by year 2004, 2005, coal 450 to 540 mt, oil 90.11 mt, electricity 501-592 billion kilowatts and non-commercial energy, 500 mt. A. Commercial sources of energy. I. Fuels. Fuel minerals include mainly the non-renewable fossil energy resources such as coal, petroleum, oil, and natural gas, all of which exist in large quantities and lie buried under the ground. Due to their great importance in generation of energy, these natural resources are receiving utmost attention. IDIS estimated that with ever-increasing use of energy in present industrial, urban complexes, up to year 2000, global energy requirement would rise by 58%. If the energy production fails to keep pace with the growth rate of our consumption, a catastrophic situation may arise. Fast depletion chances of these fuels and the impacts of their extraction and utilization on the environment are certain other serious problems. 1. Coal. Generally, coal is regarded as our most plentiful and useful fossil fuel. This is largely carbon, mixed with incombustible mineral matter of the Earth's crust. Coal is formed by the transformation of layers and layers of decomposed vegetable and animal matter under the combined effect of heat and pressure of Earth. Coal deposits are probably being formed even today as in the Ganga River delta of our country. Coal deposits occur in abundance and are fairly evenly distributed over the various continents of world. Soviet Union, China and United States contain about 80% of the world's total reserves. The rate of coal consumption in the world as calculated in 1976 was 3.7 billion short tons per year. On this basis, our total reserves would last for 212 years and recoverable resources for approximately 1700 years. Coal is the only long-run fossil fuel which is the long-run source of gas and many coal tar and petroleum products that can be derived from it. 2. Petroleum, oil and natural gas. The organic deposits of these fossil fuels were probably formed from tiny microorganisms rather than from the debris of large plants as was the case with coal. When these microscopic creatures settled on ocean floor and were later covered with mineral sediments, tiny droplets of body oil were squeezed out of them. This oil was trapped into large deposits during formation and was altered chemically by heat and pressure. According to an estimate, the recoverable amount of petroleum of the world is approximately 2,000 billion barrels. Of these, 339 billion barrels have already been produced, 646 billion barrels are reserves, and slightly Of these, 339 billion barrels have already been produced, 646 billion barrels are reserves, and slightly over 1,000 billion barrels are to be discovered as yet. About 60% of the total world's reserves are concentrated in Persian Gulf and Southwest Asian countries. The industrialized nations, excluding the USSR, with the highest rate of petroleum consumption the smallest reserves and resources. In comparison to other countries of the world, India's reserves of oil and production of crude petroleum are quite meager. India produced only 21.7 billion barrels of zero oil in 1976. It is estimated that if the present oil production rate remained constant, global supply would last about 30 years and the entire resources no longer than 77 years. However, before we reach that stage, we will undoubtedly have ravaged the great oil-laden shale deposits. A wide variety of laminated solidified mixtures of inorganic sediments and organic matter, called oil shales, have the property of yielding oil on destructive distillation. Certain countries such as Brazil, China, USSR, Zaire and Scotland exploit this resource to get oil. It is speculated that 15,200 billion barrels of high-grade oil, 25 to 100 gallons per ton shale, and 18,000 billion barrels of low-grade oil, 10 to 25 gallons per ton material constitute the total resources. Likewise, tar sands, also known as oil sands, bituminous sand and bituminous rocks, contain heavy asphaltic, viscous substance called bitumen petroleum. These occur in Canada and have 731 billion barrels of in-place oil. Natural gas is another energy resource. USA is its largest producer as well as consumer. About 50 trillion cubic feet natural gas was obtained in 1976, and if this pace continues constantly in future, the world's reserve of natural gas would last about 45 years. 3. Nuclear fuels. The nuclear energy of the atoms has been harnessed by three types of reactors: fission reactor, fast breeder reactor and nuclear fusion reactor. While fission and fast breeder reactors are based on the splitting of uranium and plutonium, the nuclear fusion reactor is latest and most powerful and involves fusion of hydrogen nuclei. Nuclear reactors produce enormous energy for driving ships and generating electric power. Our planet is estimated to have 4,900,000 short tons of uranium, out of which 3,510 are known from USA. These can fuel 800 gigawatts, 800 billion watts, of light water reactor plants. In comparison to oil and gas, uranium represents a resource of limited potential under present state of technologies. However, new enrichment technologies may prolong these supplies. In fact, utmost care need to be exercised to produce energy from the nuclear fuel. Radioactive contamination is a significant biological hazard. Any accidental fallout or escape from nuclear wastes can produce long-lasting disasters, often lethal effects on man and other biotic components of the biosphere. I1. Electric energy production. The various sources of electric energy are I. Atomic nuclear power reactors, E. Lignite, E. Lean gas, IV. Hydropower plants, V. Coal plants, and B. Small microhydel plants. 1. Atomic power reactors. Atomic power has become a principal source of energy in recent years, since the fossil fuel reserves are depleting very fast. A small quantity of radioactive material can produce an enormous amount of energy. For example, 1 ton of uranium, 235 U*, would provide as much energy as by 3 million tons of coal or 12 million barrels of oil. Besides getting the electricity, atomic power is also as fuel for marine vessels, heat generation for chemical and atomic power reactor, and food processing plants and for spacecrafts. For the generation of atomic energy, one requires a nuclear reactor. The decay of fissionable matter produces great amount of heat. This heat is used to make steam, which is channeled through a turbine connected to electric generator. 2. Hydroelectric energy. Moving water has been harnessed as a source of energy for many years. Waterfalls turned paddle wheels to grind corn or wheat in early Europe, America and India. Later, moving water was backed up behind great dams and then released to turn turbines of huge generators for hydroelectric energy. Hydroelectric power is the most important renewable energy source. It is the cheapest source of power generation, since land is free and environmental costs are seldom calculated. It is regenerative, thus, helps in the conservation of fossil fuels. Potential of such hydroelectric energy is being developed in India through large-scale projects in the Himalayan region in north and northeast regions. Recently, however, these megaprojects have been criticized and vehemently opposed by the environmentalists, such as Sundar Lal Bahuguna and Mehta Patekar. 4. These have resulted during development of their infrastructure. Hydroelectric power is an important renewable energy source. 2. Into deforestation, wildlife destruction, increased soil erosion and other socio-political and economic problems. 3. Microhydels. In India, there is great scope for the development of micro and mini-hydel power schemes. Microhydels are proper means of generating electricity in the remote areas. Such installations are usually developed on the runoff the river schemes and do not require much infrastructure. They are more safe environmentally and are very useful for the local people. In fact, they do not involve approach roads, no pondage, no loss of vegetative cover, and are free from pollution hazards. B. Non-commercial sources of energy. All materials which originate from photosynthesis form the biomass. It includes all new plant growth, residues and wastes, wood, short rotational trees, herbaceous plants, freshwater and marine algae, aquatic plants, agricultural and forest residues, straw husks, bagasse, corn cobs, bark, sawdust, wood shavings, roots, animal droppings, wastes, garbage, dung, night soil or feces, industrial refuse, etc. Biodegradable organic effluents from industries such as canneries, sugar mills, slaughterhouse, meat packing plants, breweries, distilleries, etc. are also included in this category. Biomass-based energy can be obtained by the following sources. 1. Firewood. According to Advisory Board on Energy or Aid, the demand for firewood is going to go up in order of 300 to 330 mount in the year 2004-2005 against the present level of 120 to 130 mt. Recently, efforts are going on to improve the firewood utilization to get more and more energy. Some new techniques are the following. I. Briquetting. The Indian Institute of Technology, New Delhi has developed the technology of briquetting sawdust into smokeless fuel. E. Gasification. Gasification of biomass is an important means of harvest energy through thermochemical conversion. It yields biogas, producer gas and pyrogas. E. Improved chulas. Present-day chulas, which are about 112 million in number, have a very low, 2-10% efficiency. This results into wastage of wood, deforestation, air pollution and health problems. Department of Non-Conventional Energy Sources, DNES, have designed certain improved stoves which contain thermal efficiency up to 15 to 20%. 2. Petroplants. There are attempts to identify potential plant species as sources of liquid hydrocarbons, a substitute for liquid fuels. In this respect, 15 species hold promise and they belong to families Euphorbiaceae, Asclepiodaceae, Apocynaceae, Urticaceae, Convolvulaceae and Sapotaceae. There is a need to increase the biomass of these plants, and conversion of their hydrocarbons into petroleum fractions. The Indian Institute of Petroleum, Dehradun, done a remarkable job in this area, particularly on hydrocracking of the crude products. The products, thus, obtained are gases, naphtha, kerosene, gas oil, coke, etc. 3. Biogas. Biogas provides a significant solution to present energy crisis, especially in rural areas. This is an environmentally clean technology. The generation of biogas involves decomposition of animal dung, even human fecal matter, leafy and agricultural residues, under anaerobic conditions by bacterial action, in a suitable capacity digester. This results in the production of methane gas, which is used for cooking and even for lighting purpose. Biogas is composed of methane, Colorado, H, and N. At 40% methane content, calorific value of biogas is 3,214 kilocalories per meter. At 50% is 4,429 kcal per meter. Registered and at 55% is 4,713 kcal per meter. 3. Dung of domestic herbivore is used in biogas production. According to Dr. Archana Sharma, 1987, India annually produces about 1,000 million tons of dung, from which about 22,425 million meters gas can be produced. Besides the cooking gas, slurry, i.e., residual organic matter obtained from the digester, can produce 206 million tons of organic manure, or biofertilizer, every year that can replace 1.4 million tons of N, 1.3 million tons of P, O, phosphate, and 0.9 million tons of K, O, potash. However, this source of bioenergy is not being fully tapped in India, though China has fully exploited this biotechnology. Biogas can also be generated from sludge obtained from primary treatment of raw sewage, and one such plant is in operation at Okla. Water hyacinth, hydrilla, duckweeds and algae can act as supplements for production of biogas. At present, in India, there are about 6.1 lakh biogas plants. It is estimated that 1.5 lakh biogas plants will save 6 lakh tons of wood equivalent every year. C. Non-conventional renewable sources of energy. These sources can boost production in specific areas, in a decentralized manner, and are of the following types. 1. Dendrothermal energy. In Philippines, energy is experimentally generated from energy plantation. There is a claim of 3.75 kW of electric energy production from wood growing on 7 hectares of land. 2. Solar energy. Solar energy of sunlight is a highly potential renewable resource like the wind energy. It does not cause any pollution and can be manned to produce enough power by developing economical technologies. India receives abundant sunshine, about 1648-2108 kWh per meter year, with nearly 250 to 300 days of useful sunshine in a year. The daily solar energy incidence is between 5 to 7 kWh per meter. At different parts of the country, this immense resource of solar energy can be converted into other form of energy through thermal or photovoltaic conversion routes. 1. The solar thermal uses solar radiation in the form of heat that in turn may be converted to mechanical, electric or chemical energy. Solar thermal devices such as solar cookers, solar water air heaters, solar dryers, solar wood seasoning ovens or kilns and silicon systems have been developed. 2. The photovoltaic conversion systems convert solar radiation directly into electricity through silicon solar cells. These cells may be of various types such as single crystal silicon cell, polycrystalline cells, amorphic solar cells, etc. The systems have been exploited for community lighting, radio and TV sets, lighthouses, offshore platforms and installation in remote areas. A significant application of photovoltaic conversion systems is pumping of water for micro-irrigation and drinking purposes. These systems, being decentralized one-spot electricity generation systems, help to replace old, noisy and polluting diesel utilizing systems. They may be installed in remote areas such as forests, deserts and hills. 3. Wind energy. Wind has provided cheap and pollution-free energy throughout much of Western Europe, but windmills are presently often treated as quaint relics. Part of the problem is that wind is an ortholocal phenomenon and is extremely unpredictable in most places. In India, there are areas which are quite windy. Average annual wind density of 3 kilowatts per meter per day are common at various places in peninsular India and also along coastline of Gujarat, Western Ghats and parts of central India. Wind densities exceeding 4 kilowatts per meter. Y are available for 5 to 7 months in a year. During winter, wind densities become even more than 10 kilowatts per meter percent day. Wind energy can be converted into mechanical and electrical energy. National Aeronautical Limited, Bangalore is engaged in research and development of power generation through windmills. Wind energy is useful in remote areas, helps saving fossil fuels, delivers on the spot small quantity of energy which is free from pollution and environmental degradation. 4. Ocean tidal energy. Tidal power is a form of hydroelectricity produced by harnessing the ebb and flow of the tides. Barriers containing reversible turbines are built across an estuary or gulf where the tidal range, i.e., rise and fall of sea level, is great. 5. Geothermal energy. Geothermal energy provides the most promising sources of power. Geothermal energy utilization is possible in volcanic regions or where hot springs and geysers occur. A cold storage unit and 5 milliwatts power plant using geothermal energy have been set up at Manakar and HP. About 350 geothermal springs have been located in the country. In 46 of them the water temperature exceeds 150 degrees Celsius. 1993. Data of the investigations on geothermal energy potential at Tapovan, Badrinath, UP. By Wadia Institute of Himalayan Geology and other agencies only are available. CW, 1995. 3. Food, AGRICULITUR and ed aquaculture. Humans need food as a source of energy and for tissue replacement, like any other animal. The source of much of the food consumed by man is terrestrial agriculture. This represents the most manipulated of all the non-urban ecosystems, in which the energy and matter pathways are directed almost entirely to man and where he maintains a high level of input of matter and energy to keep the system stable in order to yield his preferred crop. Not only is the ecosystem man-made, but the plant and animal components of it have usually been genetically altered by man in the course of their domestication. There are two main types of agriculture: crop agriculture, in which plant production is harvested for use by man either directly or after processing, and animal agriculture, where a crop from highly manipulated ecosystem is fed to domesticated animals. Ecologically, terrestrial agriculture presents man either as a herbivore or as a third trophic level carnivore. Terrestrial agriculture systems today exhibit a major division into shifting and sedentary types. Shifting cultivation. In shifting cultivation, total manipulation of the natural system is practiced over a limited area but for only a short, 1 to 5 years period of time. Thus, the agricultural path is spatially and temporarily enclosed by wild vegetation. Today, shifting cultivation is largely confined to tropical forests, savannas, and grasslands. In this type of cultivation, crops are planted in a mosaic of different heights and times of fruition so that the plant cover of the soil remains as complete as possible throughout the year in order to reduce the leaching effect of heavy rainfall. Slash and burn techniques provide mineral nutrients for their uptake by the crops. The natural diversity of the forests is imitated by the variety of crops which are grown by some shifting cultivators. For example, the tropic crops of Hananu of the Philippines include rice, beans, root crops, shrub, legumes, tree crops, yam, taro, sweet potato, vines, bananas and sugarcane, together with European contact crops such as maize, ground nuts, tomatoes, melons and pumpkins. Ecologists have found shifting cultivation is a well-adapted system in forested lands where the trees regenerate easily when the plots are deserted, and where an equilibrium population has established. Sedentary cultivation. Sedentary cultivation represents the permanent manipulation of an ecosystem. The natural biota are removed and replaced with domesticated plants and animals. Competition by the remnants of the original biota or by man-introduced organisms may still remain, and considerable efforts may be needed to keep these weeds and pests at an acceptable level. In dry land agriculture, the soil assumes an importance, for it now becomes the long-term reservoir of all nutrients and is constantly depleted as crops are harvested and removed. The nutrients must be replenished either by the addition of organic excrete or chemical fertilizers. There is also the paddy culture of rice, where the soil is very largely a mechanical rooting medium for the plants and the water supplies the essential mineral nutrients. It often contains blue-green algae which fix nitrogen, for example. The variety of crops grown under the various forms of sedentary cultivation is very high, and changing patterns of agriculture together with shifting trade flows and altered rates of consumption make a world kaleidoscope of infinite variety. Ecological training has been widely used in agriculture. To select particular climate and edaphic conditions for a particular crop is primarily an ecologist's job. Ecology plays a vital role in weed control. The nitrogen and phosphorus requirements of soil, crop rotation practice, etc., have been learned from ecology. Due to application of ecologically sound principles, agriculture has resulted into green revolution, i.e., increased agriculture production. In fact, the Green Revolution of the late 1960s was based on new genetic strain of rice and wheat, improved irrigation, and better application of fertilizers, and it has achieved a doubling and tripling of crop yields in many tropical countries. But recently, Green Revolution has exhibited certain ecological problems: the breakdown of soil structure in European countries under a regime of continuous cereal cropping with the use of physically heavy machinery, and its increased dependence upon petroleum and fertilizer. Further, new strains of agricultural crops which are high-yielding, protein-rich, and weather and pest-resistant, require more careful management, more water, more fertilizer, more insecticides, and more intensive care. New sources of food. Most modern ecologists hold the view that even if the rapid development of conventional agriculture is sustained, protein deficiencies will continue to exist. Simmons, 1974. A search for supplementary sources of plant and animal proteins is, therefore, in progress. Animal proteins are more preferred ones because their amino acid makeup is closest to man's requirements. Animal flesh has the further advantage that it is usually the more easily assimilable, since the plant proteins are locked away behind a cell wall of cellulose not easily broken down by the action of the human stomach. Animals, thus, have been a means of harvesting the plant protein in a digestible form, and so have considerable dietary advantages. If animals are to be avoided, a food source which will yield plant protein in a digestible form or from which the majority of cellulose has been removed is clearly attractive. Fungi appear to be easily assimilated and contain a good deal of protein by comparison with some other sources such as beef, fish, etc. Other advantages of mushrooms are that they do not absorb much human or fossil energy in production, can be grown independently of environmental factors in places such as caves and abandoned railway tunnels, can readily be stored in dried form and require little sophisticated knowledge or technology. Pike, 1970. Animals retain many desirable characteristics as cellulose converters and as saliva inducers. As very small number of wild animals have been domesticated by man for milk, wool, skin, food, transportation, etc., recently, certain other wild animals are increasingly domesticated. Birds such as young colonial seabirds, reptiles, amphibians, insects, crustaceans, mollusks, rodents, and many other animals can be utilized as food. Freshwater and brackish water fish are other sources of animal proteins. Marine and freshwater fisheries provide the best sources of animal proteins. Many nations such as Peru, Japan, USSR, China, Norway, USA, UK, Burma, Thailand and India depend on them for food requirements. Due to overfishing of certain favorite fish species, recently following trends are adopted for continuous abundant supply of fishes.